session, and I'd like to kindly request the presence of our distinguished speakers on the podium at this time. Please put your hands together as they come up. Mrs. Tola Odeyemi, Dr. Oroluwafemi Awokoya, Mr. 𝐓𝐿𝐥𝐚 Oyemade, and Mr. Ademola Oshodi. Okay, if I can get the questions from the audience, we'll definitely proceed, but if there are any questions from the audience, could an usher please bring it to us? Thank you so much, sirs and mas, for the insightful and absolutely transformative sessions that we've had so far. It's been such a wonderful time gleaning insights, and I just sat down there and I was writing. I'm not in the public sector personally, but I gained so much wisdom, and I was just writing like, I feel like I'm ready to take on the world, you know. I feel like I'm ready to make a bold leap right now. Just kidding. But really, thank you so much. I will start with our incredible Postmaster General. As I listened to your session, one of the things you said that did stand out to me was the importance of building trust while we work within the institutions that we serve. But my question to you in this moment is, how do you build trust when you're leading from an institution that people may already distrust?
So thank you very much for that question. I mean, it's transparency, right? On a day-to-day basis, of course, I come into an organization, massive distrust. As the leader, as the sort of CEO of the organization, I probably spend about 40 to 50% of my time doing customer service. Yes. So everyone who reaches out to me on X, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, I personally attend to them. Even as I was sitting down here, I was attending to people on Twitter, right? And just so that they know that people, at least the people who are already in our system, one way or the other, they are engaging with us, so that they know that there's somebody that they can speak with, right? And that's how it is. So like, I answer their questions. And also, I think internally as well, right? There was something I didn't say, that there are two things that I'm using, sunlight and disinfectant, within NIPOST. Ensuring that any bad behavior, silence, and keeping people behind that sort of veil of secrecy that nobody should know what you're doing. No, I expose it to sunlight. People will say that you don't air your dirty laundry in public, but there's sunlight. And in cases where we need is disinfectant to kill it, right? Getting people out of the system so people know when I attend to people, this is the person that caused this, and this has been the consequence. And over time, you rebuild that trust. And that's just, it's transparency and knowing that you're leading with integrity. There's nothing I want to do with your package, right? I have no interest in. In fact, I know more about the postal system now than I ever thought I would know. I can enter into the International Postal Service and find the information, even if people are trying to lie to me. So for example, they're looking at me that I shouldn't give the example. When an item, maybe goes missing, right? I know how to track it, so I know that in every package, in every receptacle that comes through the airlines, there may be multiple bags, and in each bag, there are like 10 to 12 items. So you can't tell me that one item is missing when the other 9 items in the bag were scanned into the country. Did it fly out of the airline, out of the plane, things like that. So I think for me, the only thing I can do is that responsiveness to every single complaint. Every complaint, by the way, comes to my email first, to my PMG, as many complaints to PMG@NIPOST, just in case you have an issue. It's PMG@NIPOST.gov.ng. And so I have every complaint with me. I deal with them. Who is the director? Who is this person? Give me the information. And I follow it. I have an Excel spreadsheet of all my outstandings. So I'm like, oh, no, you've not given me an update on this. What happened to this? You're supposed to give this person a query. You're supposed to refer this person to disciplinary committee. I haven't seen it. So it's just following through. And I think hopefully at the end of the day, it could take 6 months, it could take a year. You lose trust like this, but gaining it is long. And that's that long, hard road that we're talking about. So there are days when we will disappoint. But last example. We messed up on our side. There was a guy who was applying to the GW School of Law School. And through our agent, we messed up, and his application didn't get there on time. And so he wrote to me and was like, he's heartbroken, he's supposed to go to law school, and couldn't get it. Luckily, it was my alma mater. So I told him to give me the number of the admissions person. I called the admission person. I'm the Postmaster General of Nigeria. His item is with us. We messed up. And please ask him for a 2-week extension. And they said I should put it in writing. I put it in writing and sent it over to them. And they said, okay, no problem. They will accept the electronic copy of his application and documentation pending when we're able to get it to him. So I take every single thing personally. And that's rebuilding trust for me.
Wow, please put your hands together again. Incredible. I hear hands-on leadership, transparency, accountability, taking responsibility. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your service and your leadership. Okay, I'll go over to Dr. Finney Awokoya. You said very clearly, and I loved it, bring your own chair. If people are not giving you a seat at the table, just grab your chair and bring it. Now, as someone who started from the grassroots level of health service, how did you navigate those early power gaps? And how did you create space for your own voice?
Okay, thank you. So, the situation at primary healthcare is that there's so many women already working there. So it was just fitting in as well. The other thing I said, and it also ties into what the postmaster says, is that when you go into a new room, calm down. Listen, learn, understand. Yes, you have great, wonderful ideas, but if you misstep, coming back to a position of trust is going to take 3, 4, 5 times as much work as if you had paced yourself and understood how to navigate your way. And for primary healthcare, I was their permanent secretary's personal assistant and then became one of their officers when she subsequently retired. But I think the entry made it easy. They saw me as a colleague, one of them, somebody who would add to the value of what they were trying to do and was always willing to learn, always willing to partner, collaborate. And HC had said that you never work alone. You can't. You can't do it alone. You must work well within a team. And there's the 360 thing. You have your subordinates, you have your bosses as well, and then you have your colleagues. If you work well, very well with your colleagues, then that is when your work can come to the fore. And for me, it was just a question of fitting in with all the ladies. In fact, I think we're about 8, and there was only one gentleman amongst us. So it was me joining the other women to promote healthcare at primary healthcare level, whether in routine immunization or disease control or reproductive health or planning. Healthcare is one of those professions that skews towards women, like education. There are just some areas where you find a lot more women working than men. So I guess I had the advantage of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for that response. Pace yourself. I love it. Thank you. I'll go over to our Honorable Commissioner. So you've worked extensively across Pardon me. I was going to ask Mr. Ademola this question, so I'll come back to you. Please let me ask Mr. Ademola. Mr. Oshodi, pardon me. So you've worked extensively across diplomacy, strategy, media, and development. What is the most surprising thing about working in the presidency versus your earlier consulting and private roles?
Thank you. There's every environment is a surprise. Every new change is a surprise. But if I have to point to anything that really surprised me was the fact that it's quite ordinary. It's really quite ordinary. I mean, I used to see President Buhari, Obasanjo walking around the villa and ministers following them and, you know, the state security people guarding the place. But I don't know, I come in, it looks just like a normal office. You walk around, it just seems rather, you know, underwhelming. It really does. I don't know, maybe I'm just taking things for granted, but it just seems rather, you know, because again, I know this man. I've worked with him for close to 10 years before presidency. So walking into his office, seeing people, being in meetings, gisting in corridors, seeing dignitaries that many of them have met before. They know about me. It just seems not a big deal. But I'm pretty sure I may be just taking things for granted. But that's the biggest surprise, that the old grandeur of the villa and all the you know, pomp and circumstance that comes with power, trappings of power, it's just underwhelming, I think.
Wow, that's just quite interesting and eye-opening. Thank you, thank you. Okay, we'll go back to our Honorable Commissioner. What advice, sir, would you give to a 30-year-old private sector leader considering politics or public service?
I mean, I'm always, my advice will come with the usual caveats, right? I think, you know, it's I think, Antonio, was it Machado that said the poem, Caminate no he camino, traveler, there is no way. You make your way by walking. Everybody walks in their own, you know, it's a different journey. So I think the biggest thing I'll say to you is that no two journeys are the same. You know, so if Akin's path has been Standard Bank, you know, going on TV to debate, Demola's path is very different. You know, everyone's path here, even just amongst four of us, you know, there's a lot of diversity to the story. So there isn't any way, right? There's no script. You know, there's no handbook, right, to making your way up in politics. Some people have made their way up bottom up, right? They've been councillors, they've been local government chairmen, they've now become senators, etc. Some people have been a bit more top down, right, where they've come in relatively higher. But I think at the heart of everything is that the one thing I'll leave anyone with is you need to have a second address. Politics gets very brutal, and if you have nothing to fall back on, right, then you will lose any kind of moral, you know, boundaries that you have. Because if it's the only thing that you can survive on, then you just can't think of life outside of it, right? And it can be quite jarring, you know. And I think the point Mr. Oshodi made about just government and the trappings of it being underwhelming is very important. I think it's very overrated from the outside, right? But if you then go to see a governor or a minister or a president on a daily, weekly basis, right, you start to realize that there's really nothing to this stuff, right? A lot of it is just make-believe. So you need to have a real career outside of it, because whenever you are done, you must go do something else, right? Otherwise, I mean, I can tell you my story. It's been 10 years, right? I didn't think I was going to be there for up to 4. So when one of my former bosses, Governor Ambode, saw me once, he said, look at you. Maybe you were saying that you just do this thing one time, you are gone. Look at you now, almost a decade at the job, right? And I always ask myself, how do I refresh my knowledge, my skills? What am I learning? So that if a day comes where the person I work for says, hey, it's been a great run, thanks, all the best. I don't wake up the next morning thinking, oh, wow, I certainly have nothing I can do to earn an income. So that's the message really, is have a second address, have an alternative skill that earns you an income, so that if you get in, whenever you want, you can get out on your own terms. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. I have a question from the audience, and I think I want to ask Mr. Oshodi this question. And I feel like a lot of people will have this question as well. It says, how do I transition from private to public sector without knowing anyone in the public, without sector, without having the connections? Yeah.
It will be tough. Yeah. And I'll tell you why, because as I said, it is based on trust, it is based on loyalty. I mean, you don't want to bring somebody in that does not believe in your ideology, doesn't believe in your path, your party, and people in public sector are not necessarily the smartest, they're not necessarily the most efficient, or they're just loyalists. A lot of them are just loyalists, and they want to fill places with loyalists. So you need to find that friend, that associate, that family member, that somebody. I get a lot of people sending me messages on LinkedIn and Twitter that they want to meet with me, they want to get into foreign affairs, they want to get into politics, and I tell them, the ones I can, I meet up with them for coffee. The ones I can't, I just tell them, well, just go to your locality, sit down around, find out your House of Rep, House of Assembly person, go to his functions, kiss his ass, and hopefully he sees the fact that there's something here in this person. He's loyal, he's smart, and he's got a good CV. So yeah, it's a more, I believe, more of a emotional and sentimental approach to it. When you get in, you prove yourself, and then you become the asshole that don't let any other person in. So you become the boss yourself. So, but yes, I think it's a very tough thing, and it's not just merit based. It is a lot of it's emotion. I mean, maybe my colleagues here can have a country idea, but that's what I think too. Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
So I'll take a slightly different perspective. I mean, I agree with a lot of this, that a lot of it is a network, right? But I think I'll flip it differently. I think the network also starts from the leadership network, right? So if you find yourself as a leader, part of what you want is diversity around you. So there are people who you would never know, right? But you must be willing to give them a chance to serve. And so for us, I mean, we're all leaders here. A part of it is also deepening our own network, right? So it's also giving chances to people who have no connection with you, who send you an email. Sometimes you can't hire them, you have coffee, etc. But I think that there are many examples of people who have forced their way in, right, without necessarily having a social network, right? And it's really by distinguishing yourself in your private enterprise. Because today's politics it still comes with a big trust deficit, right? It still comes there's a huge sense of distrust between the people and those of us in government. So if we keep it honest, we're also trying to burnish our credentials by bringing people with proven competence of some sort into public service, right? Now, the more you build your credentials, the more it's more likely that you get noticed, right? And sometimes, it's because I'll tell you what, it's very difficult to get noticed at the local government, right? But if you say, I want to serve my local community, right, and you do this thing consistently, the local government chairman is going to say, who's this guy who's been cleaning this place every week, right? And at some point, he's going to come to you to say, look, you know what, whatever you've been doing here, I'm sure you certainly can organize the people here into a voting public. Now, I'll tell you guys a very funny story, and I'll mention no names. Sorry, just give me 2 minutes. When we were in university, there were like 6 people running for the Student Union president at the time. 6 of them. Now, one guy, great grades. That was the difference. He was a 4.5 GPA guy. And he got called in by the governor of Lagos State at the time, right? And I'm sure the governor of Lagos State at the time can't even remember this because he's now the president of Nigeria. And he said to these 6 guys, to this one guy, he said, look, I know who's supporting this guy, I know who's supporting this guy, I know who's supporting this guy. But you're a fish out of water in this place because you're a first-class student. Why do you want to waste your first class on student union activism? Guy gave a nice story, etc. He obviously didn't make the first, so the president was right. He sacrificed his first class, ended up with a 2-1. But he got supported by the governor of Lagos State at the time, right? Not for any reason. He didn't know anyone who knew Asiwaju at the time. But someone must have said, there are 6 candidates here. These are the attributes of all 6 candidates. This is how this guy is very different from the rest of them. We don't know till today how he got that phone call, right? But the point is that he became Student Union president of the University of Lagos and has gone on to have a distinguished career both in the public and private sector spaces. So I just want to say that the opportunity presents itself, but it takes a lot of heavy lifting. The easier part is always to have somebody that can stand for you, right? But if you don't have that, I'm sorry, you have to walk the less traveled way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. One thing that has remained consistent in our discourse today has been the fact that success is measured in public sector by impact, legacy, and all of this really great stuff. And I want to ask you, Lady Tola, is it important to have ambition as well? And if it is, how do you balance ambition and service? Is it possible to balance ambition and service? Should you leave ambition and just focus on service? How do we navigate this?
So I think I want to reframe the question because there's an assumption that ambition and service are parallel, like sort of running. Just your ambition could be service, right? So let me give my own, I would answer the question and sort of answer the question that you had. If I think about my own path that led me here, right? I had ambition. I mean, my ambition is quite high, but I knew I had to start from somewhere, but I knew I had to start from service. I moved back to Nigeria. I was looking for a job. Till this day, I can't remember the person that referred me to my start. I can't remember. I was looking for a job, and there were no jobs, and somebody was like, oh, by the way, there's this election coming up, and it's not paid. It's not a paid position, but they're looking for somebody to draft policy. So my role from engineering to policy, this is actually how it happened. Somebody to draft policy, you'll be working with a team, there's a director of policy. This was the presidential bid of Malam Nuhu Ribadu under ACN. So I was working in the Lagos office of his vice presidential candidate, Mr. Foladiola. And so I went there, showed up. They would tell me what to do. We have to write this policy document on education, on this, on that. They'll give me the massive volumes, and I'll have to distill it down to a 1-pager. And I did that for about 2 months, and the campaign was over. We lost, and then I found another job. But this job wasn't paid. I was waking up every day. From then, I was living in Magodo to go to VI every day, 4 times a week in that traffic, for a job that was not paid. But because I had this goal in mind, right, I had the ambition to be in service. And that ended. A few months later, I started working with CBN, moved to Abuja to work in CBN, and that was just a job I had, they advertised for it, I applied and I got in. Then the gubernatorial campaign for Mr. 𝐘𝐏 𝐏𝐿𝐴MBODY came up, and then somebody from that campaign in ACN now said they're looking for people to do policy. And I was like, there was this girl that used to work, you give her tons and tons of paper and she can distill it into documents. So, obviously, if you're running to become governor, people give you all sorts of proposals, 300 paid proposals, which they just dumped on my table and was like, help us distill this into ideas and policy papers. I did that, and that was it. I went back to Abuja. About 5 months later, I get a phone call that I had been appointed as a special assistant to the governor. Came in, worked that job, got promoted to SSA, got promoted to acting executive secretary of the Lagos State Environmental Trust Fund, and I was done with that. Because of my relation, when I was my first SA job, I had interacted with a couple of companies because I was working there in the Lagos Global, which was the Office of Investment and Overseas Affairs. And then one of the tech companies that I had helped solve a problem without asking for it. In fact, they called me because I was the only person they had spoken to. They had spoken to me and had agreed to solve their problem, not asking for a fee. So the role of the public policy for West Africa, and then they called me, I was like, oh, by the way, this administration is wrapping up. Would you mind joining private sector? And I went. From that, I moved to Binance. Now, with the Renewed Hope Agenda campaign coming up, they needed to draft in the Renewed Hope Agenda something on technology, particularly on Web3, crypto, and things. Then somebody that had probably spoken too much English to now said, there's this girl that comes to my office and weighs me down on this script, because if you leave me, I will talk you down. I will weigh you down with English. Tell her to come and draft the paragraph on it. And I did. And that was that. I got a call a couple of months later for the Policy Advisory Council, and they made me the chair of the Science, Technology, and Innovation and Digital Economy Policy Advisory Council for the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu incoming. I did that. We drafted it. We submitted our documents, right? And then I got a call for Postmaster General. Did I meet people along the way? Yes, I built my network along the way, but it wasn't, and I kept my ambition in my head throughout. I knew where I wanted to get to. But the one thing that I always did, at any time I got called on to serve, regardless of what it was, I always answered. And that's how I kept my ambition for service in mind. Always, whether you were paying me or not, anything you asked me to do, I would do it. I don't know where it's going to come. I just do it and leave. I don't know what's going to come out of it. And that's how my steps have been, quote unquote, we're here, ordered, because I always answer the call to serve.
Amazing, amazing. So service and ambition are not mutually exclusive. It's just powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'll go over to Dr. Finney Awukoya. And I'm just going to piggyback off what you had shared with us earlier about service and starting small and all of that. But I wanted to speak specifically now to many young people who may want to serve, for instance, in health governance, but feel underqualified or overlooked. What would you tell them about the power of starting small?
Okay. HC has said something profound today. Everybody's journey here is different. And I think when I look back on my own journey, I have gone like in a stepwise manner. I started as, some people say senior, but I would say mid-level. A level 14 officer is mid-level. And at mid-level, I was also fortunate to be in an agency where we were not top-heavy at all. So it meant that the mid-level officers had to operate at a much higher level than they would if they were in another agency. In fact, I moved from one agency to the other, and I saw that a lot more was required. It was one of the things that made me want to stay, because once the permanent secretary retired, I should have gone back to the agency where we both emerged from. But I said, no, I can do a lot more here. I'm being trusted with a lot more here. And so you come in. They trust you with, it's not a little thing. In primary health care, which is the foundation of health, and our healthcare system here, it is the foundation. 300 plus facilities. And it is program-based, so it's either reproductive health or routine immunization or disease prevention and control. And they say, you run this program. What that means is that you must develop the strategy for the state for those programs. How do you make sure that people continue to bring their children to your health facility for immunization? How do you encourage people to take up family planning? It's a very personal thing. How do you make sure that we don't have disease outbreaks all over the place often? And when we do, because sometimes those things happen, how do you quickly contain it? So you start with that. There's precedence, luckily. How was it done? How can we do it better? Who do we need to, bring in so that this can be a better program? And I also was very privileged, able to rotate through everything. Second thing is teamwork. That is medical services. You also have nursing. You also have health education. You have medical records. Within all that, you must operate within that ecosystem to ensure that you are delivering as you have been told to deliver. It's a problem for you if you have a target of, let's say, 2,000 people to uptake family planning and you only have 1,005. Why? What happened? So you create a system where there are people in charge of that program at every local government. So you must then have everybody together regularly. If you're coming in to the healthcare space, make yourself indispensable. I asked the question when I was making my presentation, what problem can you solve? What problem can you see? Because if you've come in with the mindset of finance, it will skew everything you're going to do. But if you come in with the mindset that there are issues here, how can I make things better? It's adding one line inside the budget and saying that, oh, we're going to have more consumables. It's meeting regularly with the officers in charge to track their data and make sure you are performing and the whole state is on track. It's working together with your health educator. Please, can you come and help me with this program? Your medical records as well must be in place. So come in, solve a problem. Come in, be a team player. Come in, grow with the system. And for me, I think that is what kind of advice I can give to young people.
Thank you so much. Please put your hands together. What problem can you see and what problem can you solve? I'm going to read out a question from the audience, and I'll let our Honorable Commissioner answer this one. It says, what advice would you give to young people seeking to get into the public sector early with regards to gathering experience in the private sector? How do we balance gathering private sector experience with beginning the public sector journey early enough?
I think there are multiple pathways, right? So, and this is not a sugar-coated conversation. If you aspire to be a justice at the Supreme Court, right, you have to be a magistrate in your late 20s, at the very latest, I'll say 30, right? Because if you're not a magistrate at 30, you won't get to the High Court early enough, right? And if you don't get to the High Court early enough, by the time you get to the Court of Appeal, right, you get there pretty late, and you'll be more junior, right, that when Supreme Court judges are being appointed, because it's got to be rotational and has to reflect federal character, you're unlikely to be selected, regardless of where you're from in the country, right? So if you are trying to be a jurist at the highest level, you can't spend 20 years at Templars or Banwa and Igodalo or any of the other law firms and then say, hey, you know, I'm 45 now, I want to go into the Supreme Court. Today, the pathway does not exist for that as such. It might in a few years where people get appointed or elevated, you know, straight out of practice or from, you know, the academia, etc. So certain roles just have certain requirements where you have to start early. But I think, you know, the balance for me generally is that, and again, I speak from my experience, you know, the 12 or 13 years I spent either at the business school working or in banking were certainly very instrumental in my own political journey, right? And I don't think, I mean, at the heart of all of this is the clarity for me that everything I have done is the grace of God. It's not anything I planned. You know, I've never applied, strictly speaking, for a job, right? But that's pure luck. Has nothing to do with me. It's just a case of right place, right time, right? So I got into LBS because someone said, that boy can do this thing now, let's talk to him, right? And from that first job, every job I have gotten has been a referral, right? So it doesn't work that way for everybody, but you need to build some expertise. Because when you go into the room and you can't do anything, or you can't demonstrate you can do anything, you know, you might be useful for, you know, less than complementary tasks, right? Exactly. So I think that you must demonstrate your usefulness with your track record, right? That for me is the first thing. So I won't say spend 10 years, spend 20 years. The pathways are now shorter, right? So today you might run a business, you know, start a business, you're 5 years in, you've shown that you are successful. Because also, people respect people who come for things they don't really need to have. It's just the way life is, you know. So I think that would be my general answer, that spend some time at least showing what you can do and being able to deal with whatever disappointment comes, you know. So if you don't get into public service, well, you have to view it as it's their loss, not mine, you know, as against when you have very little to show and you're just trying to get it to advance your career. That's the only thing I can say. I don't think there's I don't think there's a silver bullet answer to that question, but I can only speak from my own experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Oshodi, you spoke passionately about leveraging our cultural advantage, our demographics, especially our youth demographics. How should African governments position these actually as assets on the global stage?
Thank you. Thank you. This is actually my baby, my policy paper that I've been pushing, so on soft power. Answer the question. I believe we should, in many ways, promote subliminally, not directly. We're not going to sponsor Davido to Ghana or tell Wole Soyinka to go on TV in UK and promote Nigeria, but we should ensure that we can influence our foreign partners, our neighbors especially, because I think our neighbors are the most important things. That the ECOWAS, we deal with our trade, our security, and also our foreign, Western partners. We should influence them without, many ways, them seeing it subliminally. For instance, I keep going back to Fela. Fela is tremendously very popular. He's tremendously popular among the youth, among the middle age, even the old. And many ways our culture or our standards, we may be critical of some aspects of Fela. Take marijuana, walking around in underwear, talking foul language, in many ways even denigration of women. But he is not far away from Bob Marley. And the way Jamaica carries Bob Marley, it's good. It's a positive thing. Everybody thinks of Bob Marley, you think of Jamaica. and vice versa, reggae, Jamaica. So I can see, for instance, a Nigerian airline having an image of Fela on its tail, you know, or calling a plane, you know, Africa 80. And, you know, just subliminal messages. We can also talk about our great writers, 𝐓𝐿 𝐏𝐥𝐚𝐭𝐟𝐨𝐫𝐦. We can talk about Wole Soyinka. We can talk about our athletes. Nwankwo Kanu is extremely popular. But I can talk about Nigeria. I mean, you talked about African countries. So it's important that we, in many ways, our foreign missions have exhibits, you know, have, you know, conferences that it's not just talking about investments in Nigeria, money, or security. We talk about things that makes people feel good about Nigeria, you know, and in many ways that influences their decision to come to Nigeria, influences their decision to invest in Nigeria. We talk about the Lagos Dirty December. It's a great, it's budding tourist idea. It's coming in. But it's not just tourism. It's also ensuring investments, business. People can say, oh, you know what? I can invest in Lagos based on this Dirty December, this vibrant social life around December. Oh, I can invest in the northern Nigerian system because of Durbar. We have all this, you know, the horses in festivals and people are coming from around the world. Europeans are seeing it. Oh, we can do this. Nigeria looks like a peaceful, loving, happy country. You understand? Oh, you know, Nigeria is not just the negatives. So it gets in people's mind. People think positively. People want to invest. People want to visit. When Nigeria makes a case in the United Nations or in ECOWAS and says, you know what, we believe we should push for stability, economic integration, you know, things like that. People have very warmer feelings about the country based on how we have promoted the benefits of us, you know. But I'm thinking of it more of an economic benefit, involved, you know, FDR, and also ensuring that Nigeria can talk to our neighbors and say, you know what, come back to ECOWAS, you know, forget this French issue you're having, you know, look at us, you know, we have cultural similarities. Look at Brazilians, a lot of people with Yoruba heritage there. We can use that as a trade magnet. We could talk about people in Niger and say, look, you know what, we have cultural similarities. This is, you know, we should be together. In many ways, we are also promoting our own interest, because foreign affairs is about self-interest. So without them actually knowing. And I'll just quickly mention the fact that Nigeria does have this technical aid corps, which is more of direct soft power. We send out, you know, experts, doctors, nurses, engineers, and teachers around West Africa, Africa, even to the Caribbean. We're doing a lot in ensuring that people see us positively, just like how Americans would do with the US aid or British DFID. So those things, I think, what African countries should push at. Some of them are natural. Ghana with its return policy, South Africa, which got tremendous historical and cultural things it can use to attract people. So my own pet agenda is to promote this, and I'll be hitting the airwaves and writing about it and trying to influence government policy on it. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, we have spent quite a bit of time here. Now our time is up. But before we leave the stage, I would just like to go around and ask this question. What does good governance mean to you? Just in a minute, and then we'll wrap up.
You want me to start?
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think at the heart of it, it's really about democratizing opportunities for people. And, you know, in my state, we often describe it as a philosophy of shared prosperity, because that encompasses everything that a government should do. To democratize opportunities for people, they must be skilled, they must be healthy, meaning that they are willing and able to work. So it speaks to things around access to healthcare, it speaks to things around nutrition, it speaks to things around education, it speaks to things around security. they must have access to infrastructure, power, water, roads, accessibility. Because at the end of the day, to boost productivity, it's a bunch of different things. You know, it's reducing how much travel time you spend. It's reducing how many days you have to take sick leave. It's giving you the skills that allow you to, you know, synthesize information and come out with outcomes. It's allowing you to do that in a safe, you know, and enjoyable space. You know, so we have to recognize that the globe is shifting, right? And more, I mean, Africa, Nigeria, you know, and most of Africa are always on the receiving end of shifting global trends. We don't shape trends. We react to trends, right? So if you think about, and sorry, I'm going to take more than 1 minute. If you think about the end of slavery, we reacted to it. We were trading people until nobody was willing to accept them, right? If you think about, we didn't, slave trading end because the people selling people in Nigeria said, oh, we've certainly gotten a brainwave, this thing isn't good. No, somebody said, this thing, we're not taking it from you, and then we stopped. If we think about things like the commodity boom, same thing. If you think about the fossil fuel boom, it's almost the same thing. You know, so we need to start to think about, look, how do we democratize opportunities for people? There's 200 million of us, right? Vietnam, for example, is seeing a surge in investments in Vietnam, right? Because when the US fights China, right, there's going to be a beneficiary, right, of a changing trade environment. You know, so for me, what does good governance look like? It's people knowing that their government is going to do their best, right, to ensure that they can maximize whatever opportunity happens around the globe. I often, and I'll close by saying, I compare it with being a good parent. For me, being a good parent is your child knowing that whatever the situation is, I have this child's back, right? Is your child knowing that there's the safety and security in knowing that whatever I'm going through, there's a parent there that supports me. And the government has to act as parent to its citizens in the purest form for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Fini Awukoya.
Okay. I think the question may be made easy for me because really, for me, good governance is the Sustainable Development Goals. That's the template. And luckily as well for us in Lagos, the Themes Agenda, Themes Plus, is modeled around the Sustainable Development Goals. It's about people, it's about our planet, and it's about prosperity. I mean, it's making sure that everybody has the best opportunity to thrive, and whatever that means to them. Because thriving and excelling is a personal thing. Specifically in this room, we're talking to young people, and I think to keep hope alive, it's part of the responsibility of government as well, to ensure that human capital is developed, vocational training, technical training, and making sure that every time people wake up in the morning, they're like, okay, today is a good day. And in a nutshell, really, for me, that's what good governance looks like. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lady Tola.
So thank you. I think, I'll probably piggyback off of something they've said, but it's just inclusive prosperity, right? Government is meant to be for everyone, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, you're from north or south, you're a male, you're a female. It's ensuring that everybody has access to the basics, right? It's inclusive. Not everybody can take advantage, like he said, of any opportunity. It's also a responsible government that is responsive, that listens, right? So yes, there could be people in government, there's policy, there's regulation, but good governance also means being responsive to the needs, the cries of the citizens. And good governance also comes from the citizens. There's also responsible citizenry, right? Civic duty as well, because you can't have a responsible government and have sort of a and have a difficult citizenry, right? It has to be matched. There has to be equal sort of energy towards each other, because we all have one goal, that is for our country, our nation, our communities, our future to thrive. So that's, for me, it's a responsible government and a responsive citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good governance to me is two things. Is holding government, all facets of government, accountable. From the federal government down to the state government, down to the local government. I know the federal government gets a lot of bashing. They get criticism, everything, even things that doesn't really concern them. You know, it could be a local government issue, a street or security in your locality. It could be a state government issue. So we should ensure that we hold every single level of government accountable. Now, it's the opposition has to find its way around it. I mean, you find right now opposition in the federal system is all capitulating into the ruling party. It has its benefits as an APC member, but it's also something that I believe is not just the parties, it's not just the opposition political parties that should hold government accountable. There's also civil society, there are the religious institutions, there's also, we have the diaspora community, there's students, youth. There's so many levels in government, in society that would hold government accountable. So we shouldn't get bogged down in the fact that the opposition is surrendering or capitulating. That's just mine. And another thing is also building strong institutions. We need to ensure we have systems that work. Judiciary that's independent, freedom of speech, free press. We need to ensure that in many ways, people in high institutions and are allowed to learn and not be harassed. And if there is some sort of harassment, people should be held accountable. Courts should work. Local government chairmen should do what they're supposed to do. So, and the institutions being built in Africa are just still relatively new. Even foreign institutions, global regional institutions, ECOWAS, my pet thing, African Union. We should build these institutions to hold people accountable. If you leave ECOWAS and you say that it's because ECOWAS has not been there for you, and then you bring a gun and take over power, then ECOWAS should hold you down and say, look, the country signed a doctrine on democracy, on elections, on free movement, on free trade with other parties. Because you came in with your gun and think you can have your way, it's not acceptable. And we'll hold them account one way or the other. That's just my own thought. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, has it been an insightful panel session or what? Thank you. Thank you so much, our distinguished guests and speakers. We'll let you exit the stage now. Thank you so much. Oh, please stay for pictures. Thank you, everyone. Remember to share your insights on social media. Use the hashtag #ThePlatformAfrica. Use the hashtag #ThePlatformAfrica. Take pictures, connect, meet someone new. Okay. We've had such a wonderful time at the Platform Africa, focusing specifically on public service and governance. And I'm confident that we're all living with wisdom on the next steps. Some of us are going to be answering the call to public service. Some of us are going to implement new ideas where we already serve. And I'm hopeful that these conversations that we've had today will go on to yield great fruits wherever it is that we have been called to serve. On that note, we have come to the end of our incredible conference for today. Thank you for being such a warm audience. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for the energy that you brought. We wish you a safe journey back to your respective locations. God bless you and have a happy, wonderful Workers' Day again. Bye for now.
Here we stand as a people with one song, with one voice. We're a nation